Right then, after a bit of peer pressure from you lot, I've decided to make some more videos of this car. It's very nice of you actually to want to watch these videos. I don't know why, but okay. In the last video, I started by removing the outer sill on the near side, and that was because it was in the wrong position, not because it was rusted out. So I've done that, and I've ordered this panel here. It's not arrived yet, so we're going to start on the back end while we wait for that panel to arrive. I don't normally advise working on more than one part of the car at the same time, but because these bits are so far away from each other, there's no risk of weakening the body shell. I've removed the lights and the number plate and also the moulding that goes around here so we can see what's going on. Now this panel I originally thought I would have to replace, but I might repair this one because it's not quite as bad as I thought. These bits in the corner are going to be a little bit tricky, but I'll make a new bottom section, have a fold up here, bottom section down to there, all the way along, and we can see that this rear outer valance here has been welded on before, so that is the replacement. I don't think Triumph would have done that, do you? I've ordered a new rear valance, so I'm not going to be making that. We can see some spot welds here, which means this is original, which is nice, although it's had an impact, so something is hit into the lights, and we can see that this is bent inwards. You see that curve there? That's how much it's gone inwards. Looking up the other side, it's nowhere near the same, although it is still bent in slightly, so there could have been an impact on both sides. It's just more so on the left side. Three options to pulling this out. I can put a body dozer on here that attaches to the sills and it pulls it out with hydraulics. I can use a porter power, have to put a bit of wood across somewhere here and push it out, or I can just use a big hammer. The big hammer is tempting. I've just welded this sheet in here to stop this moving outwards, and I'm going to try hitting it with the hammer, see if it will move, see how hard it is to move, and we'll go from there. What I want to do now is make a section to go all the way along the bottom of this rear panel, and it's not too complicated a section. It's just a 90-degree there and a step down there, but where it goes to the corners we can see it tapers out to nothing, so that makes it tricky. It also obviously curves round this way too. This is fairly straightforward. It's got a sort of a little curve to it that way, but you could almost bend that over something. That wouldn't be a problem, but these corners, how are you going to do that? Going to need my thinking cap for this one. Right then, thinking cap on. Ah! Oh no, that won't work. Ooh! Ooh! No, that won't work. Ah! This is the shape, and these are the dimensions I've taken, and we're going to have a little practice and see if it lines up nicely and see what sort of deal we get trying to make that shape. The first job will be putting this straight fold in, and that's easy. We can do that with a folder, and we can stretch this edge so it curves in that direction. No problem at all. But also this bit in the corner here, this curves away, so that needs to be done on the stretcher as well. We need to know how much this curves away just at the end there, and we can do that with a strip of metal, and then we can flatten it out and I can use that to guide me. So strip of metal bent up, if we put that along there, we can see how far out it is. It'll be absolutely miles out if I kept that straight. Surprising actually. That's pretty good there. And that is how much it needs to curve on the end. Nice little shelf this is turning out to be. I might suggest to the Spitfire owner that we keep that. I've made another one, and this one follows the outside, and I've also marked some start and finish lines as well. That's going to be important for establishing lengths. I now need to get this bit to curve like that, but that's going to be a struggle because this is nearly 40mm long. I don't know if my tooling will do that. Let's see. This has moved quite a bit so far, but the trouble is there's not enough depth on this. There's only 25mm of depth on this stretcher here. So it's not going to work terribly well because you're not stretching this bit here. But I've made an English wheel stroke deep shrinker stretcher. Let's see if we can do it on here. I can only get a bit further actually because of the fold stopping it going in too much further. That's this curve. Now it needs to curve this way. So I've got that curve, which is fine. Gone slightly too far actually. I've left 30mm here, but I don't need 30mm at this edge. I only need 15. That'll make my life easier if I cut this back. That's not fitting too badly there. Next thing to do is to put this fold in. We do that with a bead roller. Now we use our outer pattern to scribe the line where it needs to fold. We know it starts about 5mm and finishes at 14, and it curves like that. I'm using the bead roller here to try and fold this edge down. I've got so far, but we've got a kink, and that is because what I'm asking it to do is change diameter. So we can see this is a curve, so that's part of a circle, isn't it? And the second part where I want it to move to is a different diameter circle, isn't it? I'm asking it to get bigger, and it doesn't want to because it has to stretch in order to do that. And that's why this is folded back up, because it wants to stay at this diameter. It doesn't want to move. So if I stretch this edge, I should be able to get it to move in the direction I want. Here's the situation. I've stretched that edge, which has helped, but there's a problem because what I should have done is I should have folded this edge first as a single part rather than trying to put a complete step in with the bead roller all in one go. I should have folded this edge and then stretched this whole bit here and then put the final fold in. And what that would have done is it would have meant this fold down here is the right dimensions. It doesn't want to move because it can't stretch, and that's what needs to happen. And I can't stretch it because I can't get the tool in there to stretch that bit. I can get to stretch this bit, but not that bit. And that's why it's not wanting to move the way I want it to. If that step up was a bit smaller, I would have got away with it. But because it's 7mm, it's just asking too much. The plan now then is to make this section from about here to there in 2 pieces. I know it's a bit of a cop-out, but sometimes you have to just admit defeat, and we'll give it another go next time. I need to cut a bit of sheet 52 inches long, but my guillotine is only about 50 inches. This is the other way I can cut really straight using the angle grinder, and that is using this angle iron here, which has tungsten carbide glued to it, and it does a really good job. I've done a complete video on this. This is the curve here that's only slight. I think I'll put that in now. I'll just stretch this edge and get that curve in now. That's folded nicely, and I've just cut out the ends there, and now I can bend those up. I can use these patterns I made as a guide. I've got the ends bent up nicely now, and we can see the second section I'm going to have just an L shape to make this part whole. When you have to join two bits together and it's folded sections, it's better to weld on the top of the bend rather than in the corner, only because it's obviously harder to grind out the weld in a corner. I'd always choose the top. Ends cut out, and I've set the panel to the right height. All I need to do is scribe a line on the back. I've got this tacked in place, and the procedure for keeping heat distortion to as low as possible is to tack there, 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 and there, and then let it cool. Let it cool to body temperature, which is what it is now. If you want to use air to speed up that process, you can do. You cannot harden a MIG weld with air quenching, even from red hot, which I don't advise you do. But if you did it from red hot, there's not enough carbon content in MIG wire to harden. I know that because I've got a Rockwell hardness tester, and I did that experiment and there was no difference. Whenever you can, take the paint off the back side of the weld, even a butt weld. It does interfere with the welding a little bit. Sometimes you can't avoid it. You just have to accept there'll be paint on the inside. But what it causes is interference, and you'll get a little bit of fire where it burns off the paint, and that is an oxidation process which accelerates rusting. So that is two reasons why you want to take the paint off where you're welding. As I can get to both sides of this, it's a really nice situation because I can get a hammer and dolly and I can straighten or stretch out the weld a little bit, and distortion will be as minimal as you can get. Sometimes all these cars need is a bit of love. Not in this case though, we are way beyond that. That's fully welded and not much in the way of distortion. That's a nice thing about leaving the paint on. We can see the shine, and if there was a lot of distortion, it will be very obvious. Obviously, I haven't touched this with the hammer and dolly yet because you need to grind off the weld to do so. There's a tiny little dent there which was underneath the number plate, which is unrelated. This is the view from the inside. I've ground off the weld both sides, and now we can just see some little high spots. Can you see that? I'm going to knock those down with this tool and a dolly, and we're just going to hit gently, and that'll be it. I'm just removing this section to replace it. So we have the back panel there, we have the new wing underneath there, and sandwiched in between is the part of the old wing which wasn't removed when the new wing was put on. Very frustrating when people do this, as it's a lot of work to rectify. Basically, to rectify this properly, I've got to take the whole wing off, remove that strip, and then put the whole wing back on. What a nightmare. What people do when they do that is they weld along the edge, and they don't spot weld or plug weld how it's supposed to be through the lip. Part of the reason they don't do that is because when you're trying to weld 2 or 3 bits together, there's going to be some rust in between the joint and it will interfere with the welding. It will be a bit of a pain. So that's why you've got to remove this edge in order to do it properly. Not to mention the edge is also thicker. It relies on these clips to hold this molding on, and if I just let's say I was putting another wing on and I left this wing in place, it'll be even thicker. And if the next person does the same, eventually we'll have a seam that's an inch thick, won't we? This is where things easily escalate. I haven't priced to take off both back wings. Both wings will be exactly the same and rectify this problem. When I come across a car that's had work done before, it's usually bad news. I've got an Opel Manta GTE, which is coming in January. Now that one, I think the owner had it from new and there's been no welding done to that whatsoever. That is going to be an absolute joy to work on because no one's been in there before. Really looking forward to that one. Part of the reason that this door gap is tight is because it's put over the top of the old wing. You can have a look in there and see the gap there. I can just about see part of the old wing. So the same thing happened with the Alfa Romeo. I took the back wings off and I sorted that problem and put them back on again. This is a different project. Well, I think it's going to be a different project. It's not got the value of the Alfa Romeo, but that actually started off like this. So I priced to do the welding and I didn't know how far we were going to go. It just escalated. Once you started doing the welding, and then it was decided, oh, actually, you know, quite like to paint underneath. So let's take all the suspension off and paint underneath. And then, you know, I thought, well, we can't put rusty suspension back on, so let's have all that powder coated. Then all the paint came off. So it was a bare metal respray inside and out. And then, of course, you know, the interior needed to be put back in nicely, and it just turned into a complete restoration. But it was never started off like that. It was started off like this. After just checking my video, it seems I've got stuff on my face. Where did that come from? I had no idea. I've welded up these little pinholes here. Really important you do that because you can get a paint bubble if water gets in behind it. And I finished off this corner. I've left this edge long at the moment. That's all the way along because when I get the panel underneath, come up to it and I'll trim it off when that's in place. Thanks for your company, and remember, keep it cool. Oh, and try not to get stuff on your face when you're recording a video.